Hi everyone, welcome to the tutorial series about JDBC called as SimplyJdbc. So in the previous presentations we have seen how to create read, that is reading of multiple records or a list of records and reading a single record. In today's presentation we will be seeing the further operations. So let's start with inserting a record, which stands for C. So we'll create a method which is called as dbinsert_record, and dbinsert_record will again take multiple parameters. So it's going to take here db URL, then the table name and the value that you want to insert. Here ideally when the values are more than 2 or 3, say more than 3 or 4, then typically instead of passing these are the parameter, normally an object will be passed, but here currently only we are sending 2 values. So for the time being, or for us to understand the concept, we are using it as a value, that is value 1 and value 2. So on the similar lines, like the way in which we did last time, we basically will create the statement, a reference, then similarly connection, which we will use later. Now the steps here is we first register the JDBC driver. So the step 1 is to register the JDBC driver doing class.forName and then JDBC driver. Then once the loading of driver is done, we basically will get the object, which is a connection object. Now we know this is a standard step. Now here the statement is we will be creating a statement object by doing a create statement. So con.create statement. Now here we have to insert a statement, or here we have to insert a data. So our query will look something like this. So insert into a table, that is insert into employee, and with values as 1001 and the name of the employee is Sunil. So insert into employee values 1001 and Sunil is in single quotes. So let's try to form this query now. So string SQL is equal to insert into plus table name, because we are sending the table name to this method as a generic method. Then the values in bracket, then value 1. These are all some string operations that are done so that we form a proper SQL statement. Then value 1, which is our employee ID, and then the value 2 is the employee name. So this is an integer and then this is a string. Then once you have formed the query, then we need to execute. Now in the up to read we were doing statement.execute query. Now we are doing execute update, and then we are passing the query we just have formed in the previous slide. So if the query that is executed is successful, then we will get a return as 1, otherwise it will be a 0. So based on this we can take actions if required. Okay, and then we will create the close. Here there is no result set as like in reading, because reading only gives the result set. Here there is no result set, it's the value or the return value of this method, that is execute update. Then we can have the catch SQL exception, and then the normal exception, and then in the finally block we are going to close the connection if the connection object is not null, otherwise we will catch it as an exception. So this is all the same like the way in which we did it in read. Then let's go to the next operation, which is update. Now here update is the name of the method is db update record. It's going to return true or false based on whether the return is successful or not. So here now you can see it here, db update record, then the database URL, then the table name, then the property name. That property name is the property name that needs to be updated, then the value, that is a new value or the proper, and then the key name and the key value. So it looks a big thing, just to highlight it so that the method is a general one. Now the same step, you register for the driver, then you open a connection, then you create a connection object. You create a connection object, then you create a statement object using create statement. And once you are done with it, then you basically want to execute a query like update employee, that is update table employee, set name is equal to Ramesh, where employee ID is equal to 1001, because earlier we have set the name to Sunil. So we would like this to be done. So how do we do it? String SQL, we are just doing string operation, update, table name is employee, then set with property names, because I am sending the property name here. So here property name is employee ID, because this is generic method. Then property value, whatever the property value that will be sent, and then where the employee ID is equal to 1001. So we are now changing this set property name, that is employee name will be set to the to basically Ramesh instead of Sunil, and where the ID is equal to 1001. Okay, so that's basically the simple definition of this particular query. This is made in a very general way. So we are just executing a update query. Update employee set name is equal to Ramesh, where employee ID is equal to 1001. So update employee set name, that is property name is name, then value is Ramesh, where employee ID is equal to 1001. So this SQL statement will be formed, and this is the right way to form an SQL statement. Nobody sends a full SQL statement, because otherwise you will have to keep on writing as many methods as SQL statement. So this always method should be done in a as generic as possible. Then once you are done, you execute the you do the statement dot execute update. Once you are done, you can use this return value to do the further checking and all that, which is not shown in this code, because it is your own decision whether return is whether it is successful or not. You can take a decision, otherwise you might flash an error and stuff like that. Once you are done with it, then you can actually do the closing. So statement dot close. Then you can catch the exception, which are SQL exception as well as a plain exception. Then you can have a try catch block. In that you are going to, as a part of finally block, where you can actually close the connection. Similarly, the last one, which is a delete. Now here you can have the DB delete record. Now in this DB delete record, you are going to have the same thing, the database URL, then the table name, the key name, and then the actual value of key ID. Here again you are created the references, the statement and the con from the statement class and the connection class. Then the same step, you register JDBC driver, you open a connection, then you create a statement object. Then you are going to execute a query like delete from employee, where employee ID is equal to 1001. So you will form a string. So SQL is equal to delete from table name is employee, where key name will be key name is employee ID. That's what we are going to pass, key name, which is key name is employee ID, and then key ID is 1001. So this SQL statement will be formed. Then SQL statement will be executed. Statement dot execute update SQL. Then based on the return value, you can take a decision whether you want to mention. You can say nice statement like system dot out dot println, say delete successful, stuff like that. Otherwise you may say delete failed based on the return value, and then you can close the statement. Then you can catch the exception if there is anything about SQL exception, and then in the finally block you can close the connection. So that's it about the presentation about JDBC, titled as Simply JDBC. I hope it's clear to you. If you want the actual code base, then you can contact me at 9890968993, and my email ID is orangebears, which has been told to you in the first presentation. Maybe I'll just show it to you as part of that. So this is my email ID. So you can just go to this orangebears@gmail.com, and I can mail you the code if you are interested in actual code and it's working, and my mobile number is also highlighted. Thank you, and this completes our JDBC tutorial titled as Simply JDBC. Thank you.